Hello, and welcome to the Joy of Painting with Hong Song. Now, we are going to be painting a scene from the book Fahrenheit 451. Now, Fahrenheit 451 is a dystopian novel set in a future society where books are banned, and it's by the author Ray Bradbury. And it's a book or novel that I read recently and I finished up a couple weeks ago. And today we are going to be painting a scene from one of his, from a part of his books towards the end. Now, this scene in particular is when a nuclear detonation goes off. Now, what I have here is a previous painting that I've done before, and it's very cute, it's very nice, but I want to add something, and you can probably already guess what it is. It's a nuclear explosion right here in the middle. I think that'll add a nice little touch to this honestly quite boring piece in my opinion. So let's get started. Today what you will need for this is some acrylic paint. Now what I have here is the Cannon Beach. Can you see this? It's a little pink. We'll use for highlights. Then we'll have Coral Bay. This is a much lighter tone, and still more for highlights, details. Now here's our real interesting one. This is our Tillamook, our orange for this. We'll be mainly using this in order to highlight, show the explosion. And finally, a bit of poppy red for that pop of color. It's always nice. Fahrenheit 451 is a dystopian novel set in the future where books are banned and firemen burn any that are found. Now, the story follows Guy Montag, a fireman who initially takes pride in his work but becomes disillusioned after meeting with a girl named Clarice, a free-spirited young woman who opens his eyes to the emptiness of his world. Now, as Montag begins to secretly start reading, he becomes increasingly confident about the oppressive society, about the oppressive society he serves. He grows curiosity his growing curiosity leads to tension with his wife Mildred, who is absorbed by the shallow entertainment, and with his boss Captain Beatty, who defends censorship and conformity. Now Montag ultimately who rebels against the government, and he flees the city and joins a group of exiled intellectuals who preserve books by memorizing them. Very cool concept, actually. And the novel ends with hope as these book people prepares to help rebuild society after this nuclear explosion. Oops. Oh, I almost forgot. We will be needing, what is this? Lemon zest as our main form of yellow. If I can get it out of the tube. Oh my. Does not want to come out. Yeah. Ooh, okay. That'll do for now. We'll eventually get more. Now, one thing I very much do like about Ray Bradbury and his depiction of this dystopian society is, his characters. I really like, and I have a lot of emotion towards his characters. But first, let's get to the analysis of Ray Bradbury and his work. So Fahrenheit 451 was published in 1953, and it's a powerful dystopian novel that explores the consequences of censorship, the suppression of knowledge, and the loss of individuality in a society that is obsessed with conformity and comfort and conformity. Sorry. It's set in a future where firemen burn books and critical thinking is very much discouraged. And the novel is a chilling reflection of a world that fears discomfort more than ignorance. In my psychology class, I learned that after a certain age, it becomes more difficult for humans to learn new material. This raises a question for me. In this dystopian society that is oppressive enough to burn books, do people at least receive some form of formal education to, learn how to read, right? Or is it like they were taught to read just enough to absorb the state's propaganda, which would explain how someone like Montag is still able to understand books when he finds them? But if that's the case, then the government's, grip on its society may not be as absolute as it seems, because after all, books are very much still being burnt, and there's a whole entire profession that exists solely to destroy them. So perhaps authorities are fighting for the symptoms rather than the cause of the books. Which I know it sounds dark, but you'd think they'd at least be able to figure something out. Now, I don't know how I want to do this in particular, because a nuke is very, how shall I say? You know what a nuke is. It's a mushroom shape, right? But the thing about nukes, and especially from this perspective, is that this explosion occurs from very, very far away. So most of the people, or from our perspective, we see the nuke go off. We see it, go off. But while we don't see the aftermath, what we can see is sort of like, the light and how it refracts. So the way I made this is there's lots of blues, right? There's lots of blues. And right now it just, honestly, to me, it looks like an appendix. But yeah, we're just going to work this around, make sure it's very nuclear looking. Just a bit of this, a bit of that. And, that's not bad. Not bad at all. Now, in order to tie it in, all we gotta do is we gotta show the light hitting some of these parts, because a nuke is very, very bright. Therefore, its light is going to travel very far. And so we're just going to highlight these here, use some of these orange onto, some of the trees over here, maybe on this one. This one gets a few. This one gets a few. Especially right around the top where it's more exposed and it's, there's tree trunks up there, just random tree branches. Yeah, there we go. Now we want to add some more oranges onto the nuke itself. Now its light is going to be shining, right? It's going to be shining all over. So I really want to encapsulate this, sort of like big momentous, like it's massive. Right, so I think I might actually just make it quite bigger than I intended. And this is just to, depict the sheer scale of this nuke, right? Because if it's able to wipe the entire city, then should be quite massive, I think. But yeah. Now these clouds right here, they're in front of them. Those will be for perspective, right? Like it's still very, very far away, and these clouds are in front of the nuke. Alrighty, now let's get in some of that red, because I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting is good. Honestly, this kind of red though is a bit too bright, so I'm gonna mix it with the orange. Now let's see where I want this to be. I think I want it to be right here in the middle. Right, small, nice. Matter of fact, maybe this red can go right here. Maybe right there. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. It's very looking much like an explosion now. But I think I want to more so use the yellow as proper highlight. So I'm just going to cover this in more of this orange. Use that just as the base layer, honestly. Now my paintbrushes aren't the best, so it's kind of peeling off the paint. Peeling off the paint, as you can see it. Now we're also going to add a reflection onto this water. Of said nuke. That just ties it up. Now, one thing I do really like about Ray Bradbury is his characters, right? Because in my opinion, I think Clarice, we were introduced to Clarice very, very early, and I believe she was such a wasted character in my opinion, because I loved her. I was genuinely interested, the beginning of the story, during the beginning of the story, I thought she was the most interesting character, more so than Montag, but at this point, Montag, hasn't gone through his whole arc of finding out about books and stuff. But the whole reason why he even finds out about the books is because of Clarice, and I think Clarice is just such a wasted character, and she had so much more potential, especially like in Montag's world, where someone is just as curious and free spirited as her really stands out, and more so as I kept reading, she stood out even more so, right? And that's why I was you know, I don't know. Her death really just caught me off guard because it happened so not only early but also so suddenly. It's just the liner said, where Mildred said, "Oh yeah, that neighbor's kid. I think she got ran over," and they were just yes, of course there was this like off comment or whatever about oh yeah they have a speeding problem. I was like okay yeah a speeding problem. Another funny quip about this world I guess. But then it turns out she dies by a driver who's speeding, and it's just he ties those sort of world building lores into his characters, and nothing really I guess goes to waste except Clarice. Oh my gosh, Clarice. Poor girl. Oh my gosh. But yeah, she's honestly throughout the beginning of the story my favorite character and most intriguing character for me at least. But my second, honestly, Captain Beatty is again another fascinating character in my opinion because he really encapsulates what the world is, in the world that Montag lives, because he represents what Montag might have become if he had never met Clarice. While Clarice awakened Montag's sense of curiosity and wonder, Beatty fully accepted, the rules and logic of the oppressive society around him. And, it's just, yeah, like when Montag and Beatty have this confrontation, right? This, where it's a battle of, I guess, intellectualism. However, both of them are very, very flawed, right? Montag is flawed because he doesn't know everything. And Beatty's case, it's flawed because he thinks he knows everything, but the information that he think he knows is flawed, right? It's inherently flawed. It's propaganda. It's not completely true, but he states it as facts, and I guess sounding confident in this case is makes your argument sound more sound, I guess, if that's what I want to say. But yeah, but yeah, like his death in particular is really strange because he seems almost content, right? As he wanted Montag to kill him, and it's a twisted act that reinforces his belief during that argument that independent thought inevitably leads to conflict. And that's what they have in that moment, right? He's proven right because Montag thinks differently than Beatty. And Beatty thinks differently than Montag. And what's the outcome? Violence, right? Montag kills Beatty. It's very, very gruesome. He's burnt alive with his, thing, with his own, what is it? That kerosene thing. And yeah. But in terms of I don't know. Beat also gives like us a clearer look into the world of how Fahrenheit 451 functions. He articulates society's core ideologies and provides justification for its irrational actions and explains why censorship is so strictly enforced. And although Beatty's arguments are fundamentally flawed, Montag isn't yet equipped to refute them. Despite sensing that something is wrong, he lacks the knowledge and training to identify that the logical fallacies in Beatty's reasoning. Because of that lack of critical thinking, that he was never really taught. That's how I think Beatty was eventually able to win. Not bad, but you guys think it looks like an explosion, or more like more like I'm trying to think. Like a lollipop? I think it might have to do me. I might have to expand it a bit more. Maybe that'll help it. Or maybe add a mushroom cloud. Ooh, that'd be very interesting. I think I'm gonna go ahead and add this mushroom cloud. Yeah, there we go. I think that mushroom cloud really tied it in. Just wish the paint would stick onto the thing itself. I think it has to dry a little bit, but I'm kind of impatient for that. There we go. There we go. And then we do, you know, little bits of red over here. Anyways, back to beauty. Yeah, like I think that Ray Bradbury did an excellent job with implementing beauty as like a sort of foil to our protagonist Montag, where he really challenges Montag's new identity and really forces him to think. What is it? I forgot. But really, it makes him think, right? And for Montag, thinking isn't his best suit. You could say it's a flaw of his character, but I think it's just something that he can work on. And Montag serves as a very, very nice stepping stone, honestly. Not bad, not bad. Now, I think we're going to put some highlights on some of these clouds. Because obviously, if there's clouds, then they're going to be illuminated by the bomb. I'm just going to dabble some oranges, honestly. Just give it some yucky sky. There we go. Now, let's give, why don't we give it a bit more definition? We're gonna take this very, very small paintbrush and we're gonna try and add some definition onto the clouds. Maybe a little too much paint. We're gonna show some of the It's not looking bad, but again, I think we're missing another color. Maybe this one. Let's try it. Do a little bit of experimenting here. So, a bit of turquoise, and blue. I don't know how I feel about that. That's fine. There's no such thing as mistakes. Just happy little accidents. Actually, it's not so bad. I think I really should have highlighted the underside more, but that's okay. I think I want to give more definition to its form. By adding these to the mushroom cloud. Ooh, very chaotic. Not bad. Now let's go ahead and add in some more of those reds because I think it's needed on these parts. Now that's looking like an explosion of color. Yeah. And then we can have some yellow right here. Yellow right there. Why not add some yellow right here? Hey. Not bad, not bad. Some more highlights. Oops. On here with the trees. Right here, highlights. In the water. Whoa. Yeah. I think it needs some more orange. And there we have it. We have our nuke. But anyway, ooh, it's been 30 minutes. I did not realize it was that long. I should probably end it, but I do have some other things to say about other characters, right? Let's go through some of them. Ooh, Mildred. Now, I hate Mildred, but at the same time, I can't like truly dislike her because it's the fact that I see a lot of her in myself, and maybe a lot of other people do too, because she's honestly a really sad character, right? She's a victim of her circumstance and her environment, because she could honestly be the most bright and beautiful person in the world, but just the world that they live in it dulls that human in people, right? And the thing about it is she's so infatuated with her what is it, her fake family on the TV screen, right? and like I like the whole screen thing. I totally get that. My screen time on my phone, it is disgusting, honestly. But yeah, I really do feel for her and her character parts and stuff. Oh, and Faber too. Honestly, I think he's this is the other person who I had like some sort of opinion on. And like Faber, he's a coward, right? He's a coward. He even says it so himself. He's like, I'm a coward, but he has good intention, right? And honestly, I don't blame him. I honestly do not blame him, because it's either be a coward and stay alive, or die horrifically, get burned, get killed by the robot dog, right? And honestly, don't blame him at all. And he's a major helper in Montag's growth, right? He acts as a mentor to him, and it's funny. Was he an English professor? Yeah, I find this so fascinating, right? I think it would have been really fun to see the conflict between. I know it was between Montag and Beatty, but I would have liked to see more of Beatty versus Professor Sable, right? Because I think a favorite, because I think that'd be really interesting. Is like, how would he argue against that? What would he say with the philosophy of Beatty? Because Beatty's philosophy, it makes sense in a vacuum and in that context, but not to the wider, like not with our understanding, right? Where we have this right here. But yeah, overall the story, I did enjoy it, right? It's there's a lot of critiques, and I understand that it's a critique on, it used to be a critique on the Red Scare and Nazism and them burning the books, right? But now it's transformed more into a warning against technology, and not just technology, but the fact that the thing about the world of Montag is people like Mildred, yes, they're victims, but also they're a victim to themselves, because they allow them to be comfortable and conform, right? It's the reason why Mildred snitches on Montag, is because she wants to be comfortable. She doesn't like crying. She doesn't like feeling those emotions, right? And it's so sad, because you see where that conformity and that comfort has gotten her, right? She tried to commit suicide in the beginning of the story, and it's quite honestly, I skimmed through it because they were like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, it must not be a big deal. And so I skimmed through that thinking, I was like, but then I thought about it. I was like, overdose. She just tried to take her own life, right? And yeah, honestly, that went over my head for sure. and I had to like read someone else's analysis for it, and I was like, oh my gosh, she really did try to, I thought it was maybe an accident. I thought no, but yeah. In all honesty, it's a good read, right? Is it my favorite dystopian future? No, definitely not. I think, well, currently I'm infatuated with Dune and the three body problem, but there's a long, and I've just been reading a lot of, story essays and stuff about it, and I think those sort of like while Ray Bradbury's future and his dystopian future for 1953 felt very much real and a real possibility. I think now, um, it doesn't really quite hold up. It holds up in a lot of aspects. Don't get me wrong, right? Its critique on conformity and like being too comfortable with technology, and then the propaganda, mass media, doling of knowledge and stuff like that. Like those are still very, very, very much relevant, like, even in today's environment. But again, like, is it my favorite? It's just personal opinion, but is it my favorite sort of dystopian? No, it's not. I like more like sci-fi dystopian, Dune, right? Because I think it's just so cool. Because with those, it's like, what's the world building? How do humans interact with this new sci-fi, with this new technology, right? And here, like, while they do react, it's also a bit like comedic. Like when they first said like, sorry, I don't know why I'm starting, but when there was a 200 feet billboard and they described it, and they said the reason why was because people sped so fast, I laughed, honestly. I thought that was so funny that they needed 200 like feet long billboard just to keep people's attention. I just imagine writing, I don't know, some sort of advertisement for like waffles or Eggos or like, I don't know. Most likely it's propaganda, right? But I just find that so funny. Like speeding is such a massive problem, right? But yeah, that is all for my summary and analysis and my little painting. Hope you guys enjoy. Thank you.